Good morning. I hope that we have some students with us today as we are here in Fredericksburg, Virginia with a very nice and slightly warmer than yesterday 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which I guess would be closer to about 8 or 10 degrees Celsius. But we have a great presentation lined up for you all today. And mostly I wanted to talk about the University of Mary Washington as far as who we are as an institution, what we are known for, and what we can provide to you as international students. So while we do that, let's go ahead and get underway with a few starting facts about us. We have a fantastic size. We have about 4,400 undergraduates on our main campus that is situated on about 176 acres. This is right in Fredericksburg, Virginia, which is an ideal college town. Just recently, it was actually ranked one of the top 5 college towns in the entire United States, and that's for several reasons. One is the burgeoning culture that we have here in Fredericksburg, Virginia. We're known for being a little bit of a foodie town with all the different opportunities for food, restaurants. We also have a tremendous wealth of cultural situations in this area, including and not limited to several cultural festivals. Also, the University of Mary Washington hosts its own multicultural fair. And then we also have the Fredericksburg Area Cultural Museum, and the University of Mary Washington has 2 museums, the James Monroe Museum and Cultural Center and the Gary Melchers Home and Art Studio. So no matter what your interests are, Fredericksburg has a home for you, but not just that. Not only does the University of Mary Washington have access to Fredericksburg, Virginia, we're also equidistant. We're right in between, smack dab in between Washington, D.C. and Richmond. And that provides our students a tremendous number of opportunities for research, scholarships, internships, as well as cultural opportunities for jobs later on after college, and jobs while in college. So we're 80 kilometers from Washington, D.C., and 80 kilometers north of Richmond, Virginia. And what that really does is that provides our students those resources, like I said, but they're so quick. 80 kilometers using our commuter train from Fredericksburg, Virginia to D.C. will put you there in about 50 minutes. So within 50 minutes, you could be at the capital of the United States of America, which I think is a really cool and exciting place to be, given all the burgeoning things that are going on there. Right here you can see a location, a map of where we are at. We're right there in the mid-Atlantic of the United States, one of the original 13 colonies. And we always like to describe our students as being world ready. We actually had an alumni once in an exit survey that said when he was a student here, he felt that he was just 1 hour away from the world. And I think that that is a really, really powerful statement. When you think about it, with our location 80 kilometers in between D.C. and Richmond, that's true, but also if you think about the fact that we have access to Dulles Airport, Dulles International Airport, Richmond Airport, National Airport. We also have pretty close proximity to BWI, Baltimore Washington International Airport. And so with all these different opportunities for travel that are so close by, you have access to the entire world at your fingertips. And a variety of our students actually do take part in study abroad. In fact, about 40% of our students take part in study abroad opportunities, which shows that our university and our students are preparing themselves to be world ready. As a liberal arts and sciences institution, we know how really important it is for our students to be well versed in other cultures, other way of doing things, other ideologies, other beliefs, so that when they go into the world and they're citizens of this world, they can be the most active and powerful people affecting change in this world for the good. Now let's move forward and talk a little bit about the classroom experience, because this is what the University of Mary Washington is most known for. Now, when you're looking at studying in an international location, cost is a major issue. But I want you to think of cost a different way. I want you to think of it as value. Because what is college? A college experience is an investment. And part of that investment is the fact that once you go to a college or university, on average, over your lifetime, you will accrue at least $1 million more than someone that hasn't completed college. Here at the University of Mary Washington, our tuition and fees start at $33,000. We'll talk more about that later. But the really great part about that is this classroom experience translating to that cost. And when you think about it, our class average is 22 to 25 students. And I think that that's actually a little misleading because we have some classes like Intro to Biology. It has 80 students. Well, that will draw out the average class size that we have here at the University of Mary Washington. Day to day, I think your real class experience will be closer to 15 students. I myself had 3 classes where it was just me and the professor. And so when you have 90% of your teachers having terminal degrees, you have no graduate assistants, no teacher assistants, every one of your professors is an expert in their field. And it's you and 14 of your closest friends learning in a discussion-based seminar course. That is value because you're going to get so much more out of your education. And we start that in that very first year. In our first year, our students actually go through a program called the First Year Seminar. These classes are capped at 15 students. There's over 130 different topics for you to pursue. The really great thing about these first year seminars is they prepare you for success both here at Mary Washington and also in the real world, right? Because the real world, if we aren't participating in what we call the real world, then the university isn't doing its job at preparing you for that real world. And so these classes do that by every single one of these classes will teach you how to collaborate, how to think critically, how to do college level research, and how to communicate effectively, both verbally and non-verbally. They do that through a variety of ways. For example, we have a class that we don't see on here, but it's actually called cryptology. And it covers the crypto analysis and breaking of codes and all those different techniques to learn how to do those types of things. Now you can come at it with a math background, a history background, it doesn't matter. That first day of class, you're going to come in, split up into groups, and the professor's going to say, I want you to break this code, and he's going to hand you all code. The code, come to find out, is actually one used by Julius Caesar to encrypt battle plans. Now, this is a really very easy anagram type of thing. You move the whole alphabet 3 letters or 4 letters or whatever. But the students come at it from a perspective of they have no clue about this. So they think of, as a group, let's Google search the code. Let's do this. Let's do that. What if we try this? What if it's a math problem? What if it's this? And then they are collaborating, they're communicating, they're doing research, and they're thinking critically. And those 4 skills are incredibly important. In fact, 90% of employers in the United States described wanting those 4 exact skills out of their graduates from college. And so that's what the University of Mary Washington does. We start that in the very first year in that first year seminar. In that cryptology class, you start out with a code done by Julius Caesar. The last code that you actually break is the one used by Amazon to encrypt credit card numbers. If that's not cool, I don't know what is. Now, let's talk a little bit about the degree here at the University of Mary Washington. I want you to think for a second. What is the liberal arts and sciences? Where did it start? Where did that line of thinking come from? Why did colleges and universities begin to think that that was the best way to teach students? Well, here's your history lesson. The liberal arts and sciences began in ancient times, Greece, Rome. And so if you think about that time period, the people that were able to vote, they studied everything. Aristotle, geometry, theater, art. They studied all these things, and the reason for that, and they studied other languages as well, the reason for that was that if something happened to Athens, if they had an enemy at their gates, as a group, as a society, they wanted to be able to think critically, to communicate, and decide on a course of action that would benefit the whole society for the next few years. And they felt that the only way to prepare one another for those types of decisions was the liberal arts and sciences. Universities across the United States adopted this type of line of thinking, and they established degrees similar to this one right before you. One whole third of your degree is general education classes. And those may be a little similar to your high school experience or your secondary school experience, where you take math, science, history, English, second languages. And the reason for that is to make a well-rounded student, right? And understand the benefits of that. But those general education classes, for example, math. Some people hate math, right? I like math, but some people don't. Well, you can satisfy the requirement for math with something that requires logical thinking. That could be intro to computer science, it could be intro to logic, it could be a variety of different things. It could even include stats. So you don't necessarily have to come to Mary Washington and take calculus, which I know for some students is a little bit of a doozy. We also have one whole third of your degree is electives. And to talk more about that, let's go to our major slide. For a second, look over this majors list and think about what the number one degree is from a college or university. But by number one degree, I mean the one that most media outlets, your advisors, everyone will tell you is the best degree for you to get when you are starting out as an employee in the world. You would probably point out computer science. And that's the right decision because it has about an average salary in the United States of $54,000 US per year. And the average unemployment rate is 4.5% of recent graduates. Those are really good numbers. But the funny thing about computer science is, back in the 1950s, it was less important than engineering. Because engineers built the hardware, the really important stuff. And computer scientists worked with the software. And that's where that difference came from between hardware and software, was they actually thought it was the complexity or how important that was to the overall system. Well, fast forward to today, and computer science is actually, the software is more important than the hardware. And so with that situation, you've had a rise and fall, a supply and demand shift in the economy for a need for computer science students. And so with that, what we have here at Mary Washington is computer science, a variety of other majors, where we teach electives, because you never know what in 20 or 30 years may be the hot topic, and maybe you studied that at Mary Washington as an elective course, but you wouldn't have studied it anywhere else because they don't offer so many electives. But take a look at those majors, because we have a variety there that are really exciting and really interesting. We have classical archaeology, we have computer science with a concentration in GIS, historic preservation. We have the top historic preservation program in the entire United States. If you like old buildings, historical architecture, museum work, anything like that, the University of Mary Washington actually has the best historic preservation program in the entire United States. We also have business administration with emphases in accounting, management information systems. I'm sorry, had a little glitch there, and even marketing. So we even have a class called International Business, where for 10 days over spring break, students go to an international location to learn about international business. Just this past year, the students traveled to India to see some of the outsourcing and things that go on there. But I want you to also note, down there in the bottom corner, you'll see special majors. If you don't see a major that you want to study here at the University of Mary Washington, you are more than welcome to design one yourself and have your own major here at Mary Washington. Now, your electives can be concentrated in different areas, and that's what minors are. Minors are really a concentration of electives. And these are some of the really exciting topics that we have here at Mary Washington, including Arabic, Middle Eastern studies, museum studies, security and conflict studies, environmental sustainability, which is a really big growth industry right now, business administration, and data sciences. Data sciences is another huge growth industry right now in the United States. But I think my favorite one on here is actually the Certificate in Geographic Information Science. In the DC metro area alone, they added an additional 100,000 jobs each year in geographic information sciences. I also want you all to know that some of you may be interested in graduate programs, and we have the contact information there for our graduate programs. I technically work at the undergraduate campus, but I'm also a Master's of Business Administration student here at the University of Mary Washington. And I can tell you firsthand the exact same things that make the undergraduate institution great translate to making the graduate institution great. You have fantastic professors, even a guy that helped to invent the Post-it note. Oh, I'm sorry, it looks like we lost a little bit of our light here, but you can still see me, so that's great. I'm sorry for the change there if that messed you up. But back to our Masters of Business Administration programs and our Masters of Education. If you're interested in teaching in the United States or another area, we have certificate programs in special education, secondary education, and elementary education. We also have a Master's of Science in Geospatial Analysis. And you see a student right here in the slide, that photo, he's actually working in geospatial analysis. It's similar to geographic information sciences. The only difference is, of course, that it's at a master's level, at a graduate level, which is really cool and exciting. Now, the way that we round out that liberal arts and sciences education and make it translate even better to the real world is through experiential learning. UMW offers a number of different opportunities and distinctive opportunities that allow students to round out that liberal arts and sciences education. And these are experiences that are outside of class. They're experiential. It means you experience them rather than taking them in through a textbook or something like that. One of the number one ways that students do this is through undergraduate research. We are a dominant force in the United States for undergraduate research. If you think about political science as a major, well, over the past several years, since 1995, the University of Mary Washington has won the National Essay Competition for Political Science students more than 10 times. No other university in the entire United States, out of all 4,000 universities in the United States, not a single university has won it more than once. And we've won it more than 10 times, which is really, really exciting for our program. We also have, in psychology, hundreds of students over the past several years have presented at regional and national conferences. And in chemistry, we actually have an American Chemical Society approved and certified chemistry major. Our students in the chemistry program have actually last year won a Goldwater Award, which is similar to a Nobel Prize for undergraduate research. Is the best way to kind of describe it. We also have a number of internships available. And you saw our proximity to DC and Richmond, and part of that is that wonderful proximity allows our students to access those internships in Richmond and DC, as well as here in Fredericksburg, Virginia. We even have interns here in our Office of Admissions at the University of Mary Washington. So our students are constantly involved in internships, getting practical experience. Another way is service learning. We actually had a trip of our students last year that actually went to Peru to do some study abroad experiences that included service learning. So they did community service abroad. And we think that it's really important for students to do community service as a part of growing their understanding of where other people come from, right? Understanding other people's beliefs and rounding out that wonderful education. And lastly, we've talked a little bit about study abroad, but a tremendous amount of our students take advantage of the study abroad programs that we have here at the University of Mary Washington. Although my favorite ones are those ones that I mentioned earlier, where you actually go over spring break or fall break or winter break with a professor, and it's tied to a course here, because you know the quality of instruction from our professors, and then you get a real great return on investment because those programs relate back to a course here at the University of Mary Washington, which is all really good things. We have some great, highly interactive spaces coming here at the University of Mary Washington. The Information and Technology Convergence Center just opened this previous fall. The really cool thing about that is that's the only building of its kind in the entire Commonwealth of Virginia. It has a writing center and speaking center, which are peer-to-peer tutoring areas for students that want to learn more about effective communication skills. Our speaking center is actually one of only 7 in the entire United States that's nationally accredited, which is really exciting when you think about the fact that there's over 4,000 colleges and universities in the United States, and we're one of the best of 7. But those programs allow you to go there anytime for free and hone your public speaking skills, your writing skills. Well, we added something else in that space as well, and that's a digital knowledge center. That's the only space of its kind in the entire United States. No other college or university has a digital knowledge center. And that's a space that functions just like the writing center or speaking center in that it has peer-to-peer tutoring. The difference is that peer-to-peer tutoring actually covers digital skills. I see that we have a question here. What is your tuition cost for international students? And I'll answer that simply as the fact that our tuition and fees right now for international students are right around $33,000 a year. And if you're a qualified student, if you have a 3.0 GPA at a high school on a 4.0 scale, you're qualified for up to $3,000 in scholarship. And so I hope that that answers your question there. All right, and then also we want to talk a little bit about the University Center. So the University Center is really going to be the family room for our college campus. When you think about a family room, there's comfortable seating, there might be even an area for you to eat, and so our dining hall is going to be in there, our spirit store, so you can buy some t-shirts and sweatshirts for the University of Mary Washington. We're also just going to have spaces for our student clubs and organizations to meet. We're going to talk more about those in a couple minutes. And here we go. We actually have over 150. We have 153 student clubs and organizations, which means you have 153 different ways to get involved in our community and to have fun and to engage with others. We have everything from the Quidditch club to juggling to Giant Productions, which brings concerts to campus. And over the past several years, we've had a great number of concerts here, including Mac Miller, Talib Kweli, and Group Love. And so if you're interested in music and that type of thing, Mary Washington has a great opportunity for you there. We have an honor system here at the University of Mary Washington. Every student signs an honor pledge when they come to the University of Mary Washington that basically says, I will never lie, cheat, or steal from another student, faculty, staff member, any person that's engaged in the University of Mary Washington community. We're one of the last schools in the entire United States to have a fully student-run honor system, meaning that if you break the honor code, you actually go before your peers and answer for those situations. And so it's a really great program. You'll notice if you ever come to campus, I encourage you to do so. Students will leave their book bags, they'll leave their laptops, they'll leave anything that they can trust in an environment with others that they know and that they can trust. And that's a really exciting place because that means that you don't necessarily have to worry about somebody stealing your paper or presentation or anything like that and using it for their own grade or anything like that. Let's talk for a second about athletics and recreation. We have a great program of intramural sports here. We also have a fantastic Division III NCAA sports program. And I believe the next slide will give you, yes, the varsity sports that we have here at the University of Mary Washington. And so if you're interested in one of these, I encourage you to contact our athletics office. But just to give you a basic idea, our men's basketball team just this past year went all the way to the Elite Eight of the national championship. Our women's swimming team has won 25 straight CAC championships. And our men's and women's tennis have both won 11 straight CAC championships. So that's a little bit of a dynasty there. I mentioned intramural and club sports. Our women's rugby team is actually a national champion. We have intramural sports like beach volleyball, and you see their battleship. Battleship's actually where students are in canoes and they take buckets and try to fill them up with other people's ships so that they sink. And so that's a really fun program to have in the intramural sports program. Residence life. Most of our students live on campus. More than 70% of all of our students live on campus. We have residence halls that are apartment style and residence hall style, where you may have 2 or 3 people inside of a room that share an ensuite or hall bathroom. And then we also have the apartment style. And the apartments that you see there in that photo are Eagle Village. They even have artificial turf in the courtyard, so you can play soccer, football, anything like that all year in the courtyard of that building. All right, let's talk for a quick few seconds about our admissions process. UMW's goal is to get the best students here. And I don't think that that's a surprise or secret to anyone. Our goal is to select an academically talented, intellectually curious, and diverse class. If any of you have taken the SAT or the TOEFL or any other standardized test score, you'll notice that there isn't an academic talent score that comes with that. There's not a curiosity score that comes with that. There's not even a diversity score that comes with that. Those are only one piece of the puzzle that we take into account to understand a student's potential success here in college. So we're going to look at what classes you took in high school, how you did in those classes. Of course, we are going to take into account those standardized tests. We're going to look at your essay and your personal statement, any extracurricular activities that you do. If you're on the cricket team, if you are the founder of a club, if you are doing community service in your area, we want to hear about those things because that's what we want you to bring to the University of Mary Washington. That's how you add value to our community. And then, of course, letters of recommendation. Someone that knows you really well, that can speak to how great of a student you would be here at the University of Mary Washington. That's a strong candidate for a letter of recommendation. If students have all these different areas, and not necessarily strong 100% in all these areas, but if they are a well-rounded student, if they meet a lot of these conditions, then they're a perfect candidate for admission here at the University of Mary Washington. And international applicants, just like our applicants here domestically, we utilize the common application so you can do it online from anywhere in the world. We do require official transcripts to be translated into English. It's easier for us to read and also in some cases translates them as far as credits, GPA, and all that type of thing. We require a U.S. equivalent GPA B or above for competitive admission. We also have here some of the test scores that you can receive. If you want to study English or anything like that, we do have an English Language Services office here at the University of Mary Washington. It's a private company that is stationed nearby, and they can help you with those types of things. But here at the University of Mary Washington, we can teach any student that wants to study at a university level. But there are some of the scores that we kind of require for that so that we know your English proficiency, and that will allow us to know whether or not you're going to be successful here at the University of Mary Washington. We want you to come here and graduate within 4 years, which we think is a really important thing to do. Here are our application filing dates. If you're an international student, I would highly suggest that you apply by the early action deadline. So if you do, in fact, decide that you want to come here after being accepted, we have plenty of lead time to get your visa paperwork in order, get all of your finances and everything in order so that you can come and study here successfully. And here are those tuition and fees that a lot of you wanted to know about and ask questions about. And each applicant is reviewed for merit scholarship eligibility. But you see there the tuition and fees is right at $23,000, which is an important point to make. If you pay $23,000 a year here at Mary Washington over 4 years, that's roughly 20, 40, 60, 80 some $1,000. But as I said earlier, over your lifetime in the United States, if you have a college degree, on average, you'll accrue $1 million more than someone that doesn't have a college degree. College is an investment. When you look at the fact that you could spend $80,000 to make $1 million, that's real value. There aren't any stocks in the United States stock market that have a return like that. And when you match that with the fact that 77%, nearly 8 out of 10 of our students finish at the University of Mary Washington within 4 years, you know that that cost is going to be effective, that that investment is going to be over 4 years, not 5, 6, 7. And so that really plays into the fact of what you may actually end up paying here at the University of Mary Washington is in fact just for those 4 years. And we actually have somebody from the International Student Services Office here, and if they would like to speak for a couple seconds about pre-arrival, arrival logistics, things like that, we'd love to have them up, and here they are.
Good morning, everybody, I guess, or good evening. My name is Ann Witkowski. I am the International Student Advisor at the University of Mary Washington. Our office is called the Center for International Education. And to let you know, what we do basically is take care of you once you've been academically admitted at the University of Mary Washington. So we work very closely with the admissions office, and once you have been admitted, your file is turned over to me. And we start with issuing the paperwork necessary for you to obtain your visa. And then from there, we get you set up with your UMW email account. We get you into your housing. We help you register for courses. We basically answer all the questions that you have before you arrive here. And then, of course, we handle your arrival logistics. Once you, however way you decide to get here, we will arrange for you to get to campus safely and take care of you and make sure you get into your housing. And then during the first week of, or right before the semester begins, we have International Student Orientation. And we go over all the immigration rules and regulations, make sure that you understand how to maintain your status. We also provide campus tours, a tour of Fredericksburg, and depending on the semester, we host a variety of scheduled activities, such as a trip to Washington, D.C. with the new international students, as well as some of the American students that are here to serve as your peer advisors. And then after you get started with your semester, we continue with ongoing advising. We are really the first place that you come to whenever you have any questions. The hope is that we get you to transition into being just like all the other students and to become independent, but we have a very welcoming office. And let's see, do we have a question here, Kyle? Yes. I'm sorry, this is the first time I've done a webcast, so is that?
Yes, it looks like we have a couple questions here, so let's get to those. First question, we already covered about tuition costs. Would you please tell me about work opportunities for international students? We have opportunities for you as part of your financial aid. Well, you aren't qualified necessarily for federal financial aid here at the University of Mary Washington, but you may be qualified to work here at the University of Mary Washington for one of the offices, including I mentioned earlier that even the Office of Admissions has internships available. And so in those cases, you could work for the dining hall, you could work for admissions, you could even potentially work in International Student Services, the Center for International Education. So there are work opportunities available for international students both here at Mary Washington and also in the surrounding area of Fredericksburg, Richmond, and D.C.
And then if I could just add one thing, depending on your visa status, there are different requirements. So if you're on a F1 student visa, you're allowed to work up to 20 hours during the normal semester. During breaks, you can work up to 40. So it just depends on what your visa status is, but our office will work with you to make sure that you're in compliance with whatever rules apply to you.
We're getting a lot of questions about scholarships. If on a U.S. standard GPA scale of a 4.0, if you have a 3.0 and above, you're qualified for at least a $3,000 scholarship. This pays huge dividends for you over the 4 years that you're a student here. It's renewable for 4 years, depending on what academic standards you meet. And so with that, over 4 years, you have the opportunity of earning $12,000 towards your education, which is great. And then I also see a question, can I apply to the university this month? We're getting a little late in the game where we wouldn't be entirely sure if we could get all of your visas and everything else in order before you onboard to the university. But let's go for it. Let's try. Do we have any other questions? I believe that we're at that point as well. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to submit them. We'll be here for a couple more minutes. If you have any other questions, please keep submitting them. We'll be more than happy to answer them. All right, we have some more questions here. Is it possible to support part of my education by working there at the University of Mary Washington or in the surrounding areas? I believe that it is possible to support or aid in your tuition and things like that, but I don't know if you would be able to attend school here and be able to make enough to pay the full amount. So I don't know if that's necessarily an option here. All right, we have another question about English literature, language, and civilization. We definitely have those courses. That's actually one of our strongest programs here at the University of Mary Washington, primarily because our faculty are tremendous. We even have one that's published at this point 5 or 6 books, including a couple poetry collections, an autobiography, and a couple novels. And that's someone that if you're in a class of 15 students or less, you're learning from a real expert. Think of how great it would be for them to study your work and then to give you feedback on how to improve your writing and your skills and everything else. And I think that shows more of that value that we have here at the University of Mary Washington. All right. If you have any other questions, keep sending them in. This is great. All right, I have a question about what are the opportunities here in the United States if you study in the United States? I think that your opportunities are almost limitless. In many ways, public education in the United States is called the great equalizer, and that's for many reasons. And primarily it's because if you're able to obtain a college degree here at the University of Mary Washington and then maybe potentially even emigrate to the United States, you have a tremendous amount of opportunities here. We have a great unemployment rate here in the United States. We have fantastic opportunities in all levels of work and public service, in government, everything. So if you would like to come to the United States, if you think that there's opportunity there, there definitely is, especially if you can springboard or start that off with a college education. We still have a couple more minutes of our broadcast. We'll also be on the chat throughout the day. But if you have other questions, please continue to send those in. We're still getting a lot of questions about scholarships, and we're able to provide students on a United States standard scale of a 4.0. If you have a 3.0 and above, you have the opportunity to earn as much as $3,000 per year towards your education from the University of Mary Washington. And that's tremendous because over 4 years, that's $12,000, which is a huge chunk of change of that entire bill. But as I mentioned earlier as well, if you pay that $80,000 to go to college over 4 years in the United States over your lifetime on average, you will accrue up to $1 million more than someone that doesn't have a college degree. And so that's the real benefit. This is a huge investment for a lot of students. Can I work in the United States after finishing my graduation? The Center for International Education can work with you on doing that type of paperwork if that's eventually what you want to do. We always support and sustain students that want to try to do that type of situation. We'll walk you through the process. And if that's the type of thing that you want to do, I think that that's a great way to show the United States that this is the place that you want to be, this is the place that you want to grow your future and everything else. So of course, if you want to work in the United States, we'll help you try to do that after your graduation. Can I transfer to your university? If you're at a university right now abroad, we can try to see how many of those credits will transfer. But credit transfer works much like transferring money, right? You have different currencies. And so in some of those cases, the currency may not translate exactly the same way that it works in your given country or university. And so with that, I mean that if you take a class on the history of Jordan, we don't have a class here at the University of Mary Washington on the history of Jordan. So you may not be able to get credit for a class in the history of Jordan, but maybe you'll get a class for a Middle Eastern history class or something like that. So it works class by class if you're coming from another university outside of the United States. But in many cases, if you have your syllabus and things like that, we can work with you about those types of things. But we always encourage transfer students to apply. And if that's the case, you're always welcome to apply in the same way using that common application. We're getting more questions about, is it possible to get a job in the United States to pay for education? I have a great expert here that can talk about that potentially, and that's the director for the Center for International Education, Mr. Syons.
Yes, as a matter of fact, my office and my staff, we can walk you through the process and get you acclimated to what the United States government requires in order for you to be able to start with a 1-year practical training, and then possibly, in many cases, as we have seen with some of our students, that will lead into full-time jobs afterwards. So yes, we can definitely help you with it, make sure you're on track with all the paperwork, and that also that we are in compliance with federal laws in the United States when it comes to foreign workers.
Fantastic. We have a couple more questions coming in, and that's great. If you have any others, please feel free to let us know. We'll be here for another about 15 minutes. Okay, this is a fantastic question. I'm from another country, and my GPA score is on a 5-point scale. So how do you count this score in a 4-point scale? Typically, if your transcript is then in another language, we'll have it translated into English by one of the translation services, including something like WES or something like that. And in many cases, they'll translate that score. They'll recalculate calculate that GPA for you on a 4-point scale. The easiest way to do it is if you get your grades to a point where it's on 100 points. Out of 100 points, what's the average? Is it an 88? Is it a 95? Something like that. And then you actually divide it. Then you can get to that 4-point scale, what that would be like. Fantastic. I'm loving these questions. If you have any others, please feel free to send them in. I think 11. Okay, we have a question about standardized test scores. You don't necessarily have to have completed this the standardized test score called an SAT here in the United States. That's called the Standard Aptitude Test. If you're from another country, I would actually suggest that you take the TOEFL, which is an English proficiency test, and that's a great opportunity or a great way for you to showcase your proficiency here at the University of Mary Washington of your English ability, so that we know that you'll be successful here at the University of Mary Washington, which is ultimately all we're looking for out of those standardized test scores. We want to know that when you get here, you're going to do well in the courses and you're eventually going to graduate. Great. Keep sending in your questions. Oh, fantastic. We have a great soccer player. I think my follow-up question would be, what team do you follow, right? Do we have any English Premier League or International or La Liga or any fans like that? But if you're a soccer player, sadly at this point, we're actually a Division III sports program here at the University of Mary Washington. Under the NCAA, which is the national in the United States way that we kind of watch over our different sports programs and our sport athletes, we don't give scholarships to students at the Division III level for their sport ability. We do have the opportunity to provide students with merit-based scholarships, though, and if you have a 3.0 GPA on a 4.0 U.S. standard scale, you are qualified for a merit-based scholarship here at the University of Mary Washington, as much as $3,000, which over 4 years will be $12,000, which is a huge chunk of change outside of your degree, which is great. Do you have political or business branches? I think that might be branches or other things like that. We have degrees in political science and business, and we're also in a great area here, as I mentioned earlier, in between Richmond and DC, where many of our students are actually recruited to work for the government agencies. We're also pretty close to a lot of the embassies from other countries, being only 80 kilometers south of Washington, D.C. And so if you have an interest in politics, business, international business, anything like that, this is an excellent location for you to study those types of things. And as I mentioned earlier, there's not a single university in the United States that's won as many national essay competitions in political science as us. And we also have a national debate championship, which is great if that's the type of thing that you're into. And we have a question about leadership skills and how those may be applied to studying in the United States. And I think that's fantastic. If you have leadership skills, we want to see that on the application. And not only that, but those leadership skills are going to translate tremendously to your success inside the classroom once you leave the University of Mary Washington and go into your professional world, keep honing those leadership skills, reading books on leadership and everything like that, because those skills will carry you tremendously far, both here in the United States and anywhere else, particularly when I mentioned earlier those courses about collaboration, doing teamwork, project-based courses, those types of things. Leadership skills are really fundamental for that. It's not, we have another question here about standardized test scores. It's not absolutely essential that you take the SAT exams, and I can actually back up here to the slide about standardized test scores. If you bear with me just a second, here we go. So if you see there, we also take a TOEFL IBT minimum score of 88, an IELTS score of a 6.5, or an English language Services Center certificate of completion, and that's a minimum level 112. And really the goal of that, as I mentioned earlier, is so that if you have the opportunity to study here in the United States, you want to be successful, especially if you're paying for that education. And so in that regard, those scores tell us that you will be successful in a college environment. And that way, that money that you spend will be well placed and well invested. And so that's a great question to ask about standardized test scores. And as you see there, those are some of the ones that we do accept, and those are the minimum scores for that. Okay, great. We're getting some more questions, which is always fantastic now that we're in the final 8 minutes of our time here, but we'll also be on the chat throughout the day. All right. We have a question about the finances and what the finances should show if you have to provide a proof of finances to the University of Mary Washington for admission. At the time of application, we like to see an amount that you can successfully pay for the University of Mary Washington for that year of study, and we also don't want that to completely drain you and your family. And so we like to see a little bit more from that. And I'll actually hand it over to the Center for International Education to give more specifics.
Hello, it's me again. So this is part of the paperwork that our office handles. Once you've been admitted by the admissions office, we'll get your file, and there's two things that you have to submit in order for us to issue the visa paperwork. One is the proof of finances, and currently what we're asking for is $37,000, and that's the estimated cost of attendance for 1 year. And that includes tuition, fees, housing, your meal plan. It also includes a bit of a personal allowance and also the mandatory health insurance. And then in addition to that, you have to submit the request for I-20, which is the form that you use to get your visa. So those are the two forms that you have to submit after you've been admitted. So it's about $37,000, I think maybe $200 at this point.
Fantastic, and we're getting some more questions here. I have a question. Do you have competitions for foreign students? I don't know if that's for admission or for the merit-based scholarships or just in general. Students are always in both, if they're international students or domestic students, they're always encouraged to participate in our intramural sports programs, which include soccer and rugby and other sport clubs. And then we also have opportunities for you to participate in our national debate championship winning debate team, our mock trial team, really any of our clubs or activities or anything like that that involves student clubs or anything like that that have competitions associated with them, including Model UN. You're more than welcome to participate in that. All right, so we have some other questions here. We have about 5 minutes left, and so if you have other questions, keep sending those in. We're going to keep answering them as we go through here. I have another question about scholarships. As we mentioned earlier, our scholarships start if you on a 4.0 scale on the U.S. standard scale for high school GPA. If you have a 3.0 and above, that qualifies you for a $3,000 scholarship, which helps a tremendous amount. When you look at it over 4 years, that's $12,000 coming right off your tuition. All right. If there's any students from Crimea or anything like that in the audience, you are still encouraged to apply to study here at the University of Mary Washington. All right, we see a lot of great questions about the College of Business, and our College of Business here is actually on its way to being a AACSB accredited institution. It's a 10-year process, which to me is mind-boggling because so much changes in 10 years. But it's a 10-year process, and we're right smack dab in the middle of that. So in several years, if you get a College of Business degree here at the University of Mary Washington now, the value of that degree will actually increase a lot once that AACSB accreditation is completed. But our business program is successful for many reasons here at Mary Washington. Primarily, it's due to our location. Another huge benefit is the fact that our faculty are tremendous here. You're going to learn a little bit of everything because we want you to know about marketing, we want you to know about finance, accounting, management, leadership, all these different areas, because even if you're a marketing person, and you go into a staff meeting and you say, I want to pitch this project. And then your manager says, well, what's the ROI going to be on that project? I don't know, I'm a marketing person. But if you've taken a finance or accounting class here at the University of Mary Washington, you'll know that ROI actually means return on investment. And so by doing a well-rounded liberal arts and sciences education, even within our business program, we prepare students for any challenges or problems or anything like that that come across in their career. We make them a great candidate for jobs in business. So if business is an area that you're interested in, I encourage you to pursue that. If any of you follow Major League Baseball here in the United States, the Kansas City Royals went to the Major League's World Series. Their assistant general manager that covers baseball operations is a Mary Washington alumni from the College of Business. And so we have students and alumni. We have 39,000 alumni across the entire world that have paved the way for you and can provide you with internships and examples and everything else. So we practically accept applications from anywhere in the entire within the entire world. And so if you're chatting us from Russia or Crimea, Ukraine, China, South Korea, anywhere, we would love to have you apply to the University of Mary Washington. We look forward to reading your application. All right. Oh, computer sciences. We have a question about that. That's another fantastic program here at the University of Mary Washington. For a school of our size, 4,000 students, there's not a single university of that size in the entire United States that provides students the opportunity to work with supercomputers. Supercomputers are a way that students can do huge, large calculations, including simulation and modeling. And so our students here at the university can participate in those types of things through our computer sciences degree. We also have classes on information security. We have classes on cloud computing. So whatever the current trends are in computer science, we're teaching those here. We're a very current program, and that's primarily because of our size being so small. We're more agile, we're more maneuverable. So our computer sciences program is very attuned to what government and defense contractors in this region are looking for out of software engineers, as well as places like Silicon Valley and things like that. And so if computer science is an interest of yours, Mary Washington is a great option. We have a question about housing. If you want to stay on campus, we encourage you to do that, actually. It's actually included in that number of $33,000 for tuition, room, and board, and that also includes being able to eat in our dining hall that we provide students here on campus, which will give you 3 square meals a day, which is awesome for you as far as a diet goes and things like that, because that'll keep you very healthy, that you can keep studying. We're in our final couple minutes here. And how can I know how many credits of mine are being accepted into UMW if I am transferring? If you're a transfer student, I encourage you to get into contact with our office as soon as possible, especially if you're looking to transfer this next year. But we won't know for sure how many of your credits will transfer until we can see a transcript and get that to our registrar. And so I would always encourage students that if you want to transfer your credits or anything like that, contact us as soon as possible with your transcript so that we can be able to take care of that. All right, students from Africa. Of course, Africa is a great continent. I'm happy I didn't slip and say country, because I know Africa is actually one of the largest continents in the entire world. How can I get admission to Mary Washington for engineering? We currently don't have any engineering programs other than physics and computer science. But most engineering programs now, most engineering jobs rather, require a graduate degree in engineering. And so if engineering is an option for you or what you're interested in, I would encourage you to research our physics program, which is very successful. And then I would also encourage you to pursue that. And then the last question that we'll answer today before we go back to the chat is, I'm interested in majoring in English and creative writing. What are the career prospects? If you've ever heard of Batman, one of our recent English grads is actually a writer for Batman. And so they work on the comic book. So there are a tremendous number of career opportunities for English and creative writing graduates. Thank you all so much for coming today and for listening to our chat. And if you have any other questions, please feel free. We'll be on the chat throughout the day. Thank you so much. Take care.